I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Ara Trembly. He is a licensed counselor and practicing psychotherapist. His background includes graduate study in psychology at New York University and Rutgers. He holds a master's degree in counseling from St. Karen University, as well as a master's degree in communication from Farley Dickinson University. He is also the author of The Right Hand of God, which is a newly published Dreaming God's Way. In addition to his psychotherapy practice, Mr. Tremley is also a board-certified hypnotherapist. He also is a Christian counselor as well as member of the American Association of Christian Counselors, a writer, consultant, and highly experienced public speaker. He is also an Ignite facility member of Curran University's Institute of Higher Learning. So thank you so much, Ara, for coming on today. I cannot wait to hear this interesting background that you have on psychotherapists and as well as hypnotherapy. I think it's a good way that a lot of people don't talk about. So I appreciate you for coming on and wanting to share this with my audience.
Well, great. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
So if you could introduce yourself and feel free to tell my listeners and audience a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Sure, sure. So I'm Ara Trembly. I am, as you said, a counselor and a psychotherapist, and I work with all kinds of clients in all kinds of areas, doing regular psychotherapy and doing hypnotherapy or hypnosis, as some people know it. And I'm also an author, as you mentioned, and I'm a former journalist. I was a journalist in the technology space for about 20 years, and I've been in the last 20 years or so is when I've been doing my the therapy career, and it's been a great one. It really has, and I've gotten to work with a lot of interesting people and do a lot of interesting things.
So was psychotherapy and therapist a dream job or a dream career that you had, or was it kind of just a thing that just kind of happened out of the blue?
In a sense, it was a dream job, and it's interesting that you put it that way because I was always interested in psychology and particularly in dreams. And I've been for many years before I became a psychologist. I was doing research in dreams, and I always dreamed that someday I would have a career that would involve this, would involve talking to people about their dreams and maybe helping people to make sense of their dreams and to grow and learn through their dreams. When things kind of went south, as I was a journalist, things in the early 2000s began to go south with that, and there weren't that many opportunities. I pursued the rest of my training in psychology and psychotherapy, and switched careers. and here we are today.
So tell me a little bit about what psychotherapists do and kind of explain a little bit more about the process of what a therapy session would look like.
Okay. Well, in general, psychotherapists are seeking to help people who are having problems that are causing them an unusual amount of anxiety and or depression, sadness, um, and it could be many things. But the key is that these problems are not fixable by just normal means. They don't just go away by themselves. Uh, People will often say to me when I ask them why they're coming in for therapy, they'll say, "I just need someone to talk to." Sometimes people just there's no one, they don't think anyone's listening to them. And if someone can listen to them for an hour or so and respond and really be interested in what they're saying, that's really what they want. But the process of psychotherapy is really, it's a discussion. It's what you and I are having right now. It's a discussion that talks about problems, that talks about possible solutions, that talks about the realities of life, such as that we cannot control the actions of others, but only ourselves. So psychotherapy is in a sense educational too, because we learn about ourselves, a lot about ourselves, by delving into, our deeper thoughts and indeed by delving into our dreams. And we also learn a lot about others because we sometimes we have to face some of the realities of life, which, as I said, the biggest one that most clients have trouble with is that they can't control other people. And even though we intrinsically know that we can't control other people, we keep trying to do that, and that's where we run into trouble most often.
I like that a lot of your focuses on dreams, and I don't think a lot of people focus on that enough or talk about it. So share with me a little bit why with me about why dreams are so important to our mental health and fitness.
Okay, good. So dreams, the reason that dreams are so important is because they arrive from what we call our unconscious mind, and basically just about every form of therapy will involve at least thinking about what's going on in the unconscious mind. So very quickly, the conscious mind is what you and I are using right now to converse with each other, respond to each other. The unconscious mind is uh, the thoughts and feelings and reactions that get recorded by your mind, but aren't part of your daily thought process, because that we have to pay attention to what's going on in front of us. We have to be mindful, as we say. The unconscious mind records a lot of things and a lot of events like trauma or happy events too. The unconscious mind records these things, and it does so at a very rudimentary level. But in terms of dreams, the reason dreams are important is because it gives our conscious mind access to what's going on in the unconscious mind. So when you're dreaming, this is your unconscious mind expressing itself, or it could be God expressing himself through your unconscious mind, or something else. But in any case, the unconscious mind is the medium, and the dream is what comes through the medium. And the dreams are often, sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're scary, sometimes we can't make sense of them, and sometimes they seem quite obvious. But there's almost always something in there for us if we take the time and the effort to remember our dreams and or write them down or record them so that we can think about them later. So with a number of people who come to my counseling and therapy practice, dreams are an important part of their recovery because it gives them insight into what's going on with them. I had a lady just uh, taking one from the book. I had a lady who was having a dream about she had just she was the product of a home where her father had left. There was a divorce, and she missed her father terribly. And she had a dream, and where she's walking in a beautiful woods, and she comes upon a small house. And in that house, she looks in and looks in through the window, and she sees a family enjoying a sumptuous dinner and just eating and enjoying and laughing together and seeming to enjoy each other. But her feeling in the dream is that I can't get in. I can't get into this. This is not for me. Just I can't be part of this. And so she awakened feeling kind of sad about that. Um, but this was her longing for the kind of family that she never had as a child. She never had that kind of family, but the dream revealed to her this is what I've always longed for. And it enabled her to really shift her focus in her life and find and look for, anyway, that kind of connection, which she eventually found. She eventually found a man, and he found her, and as far as I know now, they're married more than 20 years and they're very happy together. But that all came about because of a dream that just needed to have some meaning attached to it.
So, in a way, dreams can kind of predict the future, or is that kind of just, do people tend to believe that it does predict the future?
Yeah. Uh, People don't usually believe that a dream can predict the future until it happens to them. Then they believe it. Okay. So, one of the most famous dreams that predicted the future was Abraham Lincoln's dreaming about 6 weeks in advance of his own assassination. He dreamt he dreamt that he was in the White House and he was walking around, and there seemed to be activity in one of the rooms, and he walked in, and there's a coffin in the room, and there's a figure in the coffin that's covered up, but there are guards all around. So Lincoln says in the dream to the guards there, "What's happened here? Who's dead in the White House?" And the guard responded, "It's the president. He's been assassinated." Okay, and then he woke from that dream. He was very disturbed by it. Um, and sure enough, about 6 months later, it came to be that he was assassinated.
That's amazing to, kind of be able to see into the future your own death in a way, because a lot of people
Hmm.
always want to wonder. Now, you've also hear in therapy all the time where people come and they have these vivid dreams of stuff that's just off the walls that are so inhumanly possible and are just not possible in a real
Hmm.
life situation. And a therapist always says that they, or majority of the time, say, well, it has a meaning. Is it true that every dream has a meaning, or are there just dreams that happen that have no reason or meaning at all?
Okay. There's no way I can say that every dream has a meaning. I think it's true that most dreams have a meaning. Um, and um, there are what we call standard dreams, which are just bits and pieces of things that fly through our minds when we're asleep. Um, they might not have any particular meaning. Okay, that may be kind of just leftovers from the day or leftovers from weeks before. Who knows? But the way we know whether a dream is meaningful or not is how we feel when we wake up from the dream. That's the key. If you wake up from a dream with a particular emotion, it could be sadness, it could be fright. If this was a nightmare, you might still be frightened. You might actually be sweating, and your pulse might be racing. It could be sadness, or it could be just being puzzled. But the key is, if there is an emotion associated with the dream, chances are this is a dream that is significant, and it's a dream that is significant enough for you to look into it more, to think about, what is this dream trying to say to me? Because why did it affect me this way? Uh, so really, that's the key, is the emotion. What's the emotion and why the emotion? And it's a fascinating thing to do. It's a fascinating exercise to do. And this is why I tell people to, especially my clients, I tell them to write down their dreams immediately after they wake up, or at least record them on their phones or whatever device they have to record them, so that they can refer back to them later. So just, as the side issue, most times the dreams will remember the ones that happen right before we wake up. And the quicker we record them, the more we will remember of them because the memories fade quickly. But if you do, people make a habit of this, they will. It's surprising how much they will recall. In fact, a lady who I just spoke to the other day, who is reading my book, um, Dreaming God's Way, told me that she never remembered her dreams, but when she started reading my book, she started remembering her dreams. And the only reason that's true is because it called her mind's attention to dreams, and that's the whole thing. You want to call your mind's attention to your dreams even before you sleep, even to say, "Hey, I'm going to remember my dreams from tonight." Even to make that suggestion to yourself is often very powerful, and it will often yield fruit, good results.
I heard this back in like a few years ago when I was younger that I can't remember who told me this or where I heard this from, but is it true that sometimes you dream and a dream feels like it's hours and hours long, but in reality here it's like only for a few minutes? Is that actually true?
Sure, absolutely. Dreams can, um, and the only way we know that is, in the lab by measuring REM, which is rapid eye movement. Um, we assume that when rapid eye movement is going on, the person is dreaming, although we really don't know it for a fact, but that's what we assume. But yes, the dreams can seem to be very long, extremely long, and go on and on and on, when in fact they're really only going on for a few minutes or even less than that, because the unconscious mind um, uh, can play tricks with our memory of time. The same thing is true in hypnosis. People who are hypnotized, when they come out of it, usually the session will be, let's say, 30 or 40 minutes. And I'll ask them, how long do you think I was talking to you in hypnosis? And sometimes they'll say, oh, 2 or 3 minutes. They'll think it's only that long. Or sometimes they'll think, has it been hours? They just have no sense of time. So it's kind of what the unconscious mind does to time, uh, that can throw you off a little.
In the modern age, why is it so many modern psychologists seem to dismiss the importance of dreams?
That's a great question. And I think the reason is because when we train psychologists these days, we're trying what we want them to do is go with things that are, quote, evidence-based. And evidence-based means there are studies that were done to show that a certain way of doing things, let's say, is very effective. So they want everything to be done based on that. Now, the things that happen, based on hypnosis, for example, they're definitely they're anecdotal. They definitely happen. There definitely is an effect, but it hasn't been studied that much. So because it hasn't been studied that much, psychologists in training now, and really probably for the past 20 years, have have gone toward I'll go to the evidence-based stuff instead of the anecdotal stuff, even though sometimes it's the anecdotal things that are far more interesting and far more educational and revealing for our minds.
Are there certain symbols that have a particular meaning in everyone's dreams?
So generally the answer is no. The best interpreter of any dream is the dreamer himself or herself. That's yeah. Carl Jung said that. Carl Jung was the famous psychologist who's most famous for what he did relating to dream research. Um, he said the same thing. It's a symbol that that's a cross for me, which is an obvious symbol of Christ and Christianity. In other cultures, it may symbolize something else. It may symbolize a boat, or it may symbolize any number of or crossroads, or any number of other things. So it's not the symbol itself, it's what that symbol means to you in your mind. All right. So symbols are and some symbols are, we think they're universal. The symbol of water, but then again, it doesn't always mean the same thing. Sigmund Freud is famous for saying he saw a lot of symbolism in people's dreams, and the cigar was a symbol, was thought to be a phallic symbol. Okay, but he's famously recorded as having said, "Yeah, but sometimes the cigar is just a cigar." In other words, it doesn't mean something else. Okay, especially if it doesn't mean that to you. So again, I would emphasize that the best interpreter of the dream is the person having the dream. Other people may understand a lot about you, maybe a husband, a wife, or or someone close to you may understand a lot about you, but the dream, the symbol has to be meaningful to you. What does it mean to you? Not what does it mean generally? Uh, that's really what we're after. That's why when we talk to people about dreams and they say, I saw a bird flying in my dream, well, what do birds mean to you? What do they call to mind for you? That's really what we're after.
Kind of shifting gears a little bit, you also focus on hypnosis, and I've always had a huge interest in hypnosis. I think it's an interesting thing, but a lot of people know that or kind of believe that it's fake. So is hypnosis actually real, or is it just a cheap form of entertainment?
So the answer is it's both of those. But the cheap form of entertainment, I'll address that first. What's happening there really isn't hypnosis. Okay, so what happens in a session like that? By the way, I have been a subject in a session like that. In other words, a person who was called up to the stage and allegedly hypnotized. So what's happening there is a show is being put on. Okay, and there'll be a row of chairs on the stage, and the hypnotist will call up people from the audience. He'll look around, he'll select this one and this one and this one. He'll call people from the audience, and they will sit in the chairs. And the hypnotist will say things like, okay, so close your eyes, you're feeling very relaxed. And then and he'll go on and on about that, and then he'll make suggestions. All right, so he'll make the suggestion. The session I was in, the hypnotist said, "Now, when I count to three, you will be a tree." Okay, he counted one, two, three, snapped his fingers, and we were all kind of on the stage. We were all kind of sitting with our arms extended as if we were a tree, And he came up to me and said, "What kind of tree are you?" I said, "Oh, I'm oak. I'm a strong oak." So, so you might ask me, well, is that something he brought on? No, um, not, and all the answers we gave, they weren't, they were not brought on by the hypnotist. They were just the people who were brought up there were trying to be part of the show, trying to be entertaining. So that's what they do. They say entertaining things. Um, that's, uh, People will say, well, the hypnotist is looking for people who are suggestible. No, that's not true. The hypnotist, or the alleged hypnotist, is looking for people who want to be a part of the show and make things funny and entertaining. All right. So all of that I just described, that is not hypnosis. So is hypnosis real? Yes, that's why I call it hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is real. Right. So what goes on in hypnotherapy is you're in a office environment. Usually the lights are low. There might be some very relaxing music playing. The hypnotist is saying to you things like, yes, you're very relaxed. Your eyes are getting very heavy. And the hypnotist might have you count slowly, breathe deeply. So Reason for that is that the hypnotist or the hypnotherapist wants you to be very relaxed. Okay. So once you're very relaxed and your body is very relaxed and it's body and mind, and your mind is very relaxed, then you are in a relaxed state, you're more open to suggestion. You're open to suggestion from the hypnotist. So if I'm trying to help somebody stop smoking, once I have them in this relaxed state, I'm going to talk to them about how great it is that they want to stop smoking, how they never really like the taste of cigarettes anyway, how cigarettes really make them sick, make them ill. They can't, that if they ever have another cigarette in their life, they're going to throw up their guts and feel sick as a dog. I would say all those type of give suggestions. Okay, these are all suggestions that are being given, and because the mind is very relaxed, it's open to these suggestions. And interestingly, the suggestions are powerful when they're under hypnosis. One man who I treated for smoking came back and I warned him after the session. I said, "Now remember, I told you that if you try to smoke, you're going to feel sick to your stomach. You're going to cough up your lungs and throw up your guts, and it's going to be awful." Well, so he had thrown away his cigarettes already, but he borrowed one from a coworker, and he took one puff on it, and he immediately began throwing up and having problems because, and it was all because of this suggestion that was made to his unconscious mind. The conscious mind can just throw that off, but the unconscious mind, when you make a suggestion to it, wants to make that suggestion reality. So it will do what it can. So it makes your body react in the way that it was told it would react. So he was a believer. Having happened to him, he was a believer, and he stopped smoking immediately.
That's absolutely amazing. And, I've heard stories like that from people that
Hmm.
have used hypnosis as a way, as kind of a method to stop serious things that they've done, whether it's from drinking, from smoking,
Yes.
from drugs. And, it has good, um, it has good intentions and it has good outcomes from it. Um,
Hmm.
this has been one question I've wondered for years, and I've always wondered when you're in the middle of hypnosis, and depending on what kind of hypnosis you do, some people do it for, as you said earlier, for entertainment, where it's
Hmm.
a kind of a group of people come up on stage or they come out on the floor and they perform these dumb little tasks for people's enjoyment.
Right.
And I always remember that most of these hypnotherapists during this time do this little thing where they pretend to be someone's celebrity. So it's either they get a random person from the audience to come up there as just a celebrity, or the, I guess the
Mm.
facilitator or host of the show is like, when you open your eyes, you'll see your favorite celebrity, and I'm your favorite celebrity.
Right.
The question I have for that is, what goes on in their minds to where they attribute it? Is it a thing where they can see that it is like just a normal person, but their brain is telling them that it's a celebrity? Or do they
Mm.
actually physically see the characteristics and usually the visual things of the celebrity, whether it's their skin color, whether it's like their hair color, if
Hmm.
male, female, can they actually see the celebrity, or is their brain kind of tricking them into saying, "Oh, what I'm looking at is a normal person, but this is a celebrity I'm looking at."
Yeah. So I think the answer to your question is they that in a situation like that, your mind can imagine what it would be like if that celebrity were there. All right. And if you're relaxed enough, if your imagination is strong enough, you know, you know in your own mind that that celebrity is not there, that that person is not there. But if your uh, imagination is strong enough, you may well react as if that person is there. A kind of a different example, but it kind of applies to this is the hypnotist I saw that I was in. He told us he said this was taking place at a university. He said I'm going to bring our your college president up here, and when I do. you will realize that he has not bathed for weeks and he just smells awful. And you will
Mm-hmm.
just not be able to take it. And he brought the man up and you could see them reacting. They're coughing and they're holding their noses and they're saying, get away, you stink, you smell. They're saying all this stuff. Now, did they really all believe that? No. They could just imagine what it would be like. And, perhaps especially with something like a smell, maybe they even smell it. That could be. All right. So is that the brain tricking you? No, it's the brain remembering what that's like. But that's not what goes on in a normal hypnosis session. We're not doing things like that. It's really more about suggesting uh, healthier behaviors in the case of smoking, obviously, or suggesting a different way of looking at something instead of looking at something as being uh, frightening, looking at it as being interesting. It could be anything like that. But it really is all that, hypnosis is about two things. It's about being very relaxed and it's about listening to suggestions. And the more relaxed one is, and the more one trusts the hypnotist, that's very important, the more likely that the suggestions will take root.
It's just such a funny thing for them to see because even when it comes to the celebrity, you're like, wait, because then what I don't understand is here, okay, you can have like a whole group of people up there. Here's one person that sees a professional actor up there, and then the next person beside them sees a singer, but yet the
Hmm.
person that's sitting down, or the next person could stand up and say, "You're so and so." I'm surprised no one else, when they're sitting down, look at each other and be like, "No, that's not who that is." It's always like, and I've seen this multiple times from different sessions on just
Hmm.
online. It's like no one ever says
Yes.
anything, and I'm just like, huh. So like, did they not hear that they just said, "Oh, this is so and so," and not their celeb? So it's just something that I've always wondered
Well,
because I'm always
yeah,
like, what goes on in their brain? I'm like, what's going on
yeah.
here?
So remember, really nothing. Remember that what the hypnotist is saying is each of you is going to see your favorite celebrity. So they already know that likely my favorite celebrity is not the same as yours favorite celebrity. So if somebody else says, no, it's so and so, you would accept that because the hypnotist already told you you're only going to see your favorite celebrity. It didn't say everybody was going to see your favorite celebrity. So the in this case the unconscious mind, but really the conscious mind too, is very literal. You're going to see your favorite celebrity, not the person next to you's favorite celebrity. So it makes perfect sense, and that's why they don't object because they're thinking, I don't care what he's saying. He's saying his favorite celebrity, but I'm seeing mine. That's what I care about.
In the future, for future reference, how do you see hypnotherapy as well as psychotherapy in the future? Do you see it expanding more? Has it expanded enough to where there's been enough research done to kind of come up with a general consensus?
The answer to that is no. Right now, there are about 300 different schools of therapy. When I say schools, I don't mean actual institution, but schools, in other words, systems of therapy. The interesting thing about them is they are all about equally as effective, which is kind of interesting. So every one of them is about equally as effective as the others. There are some that are slightly less effective and some that are slightly more, but basically that's what we're talking about. So is there going to be a consensus? Not anytime soon. No. It's the interesting thing, of course, is that, and this has been going on for years, the attempt to make an AI therapist, okay? And that has had some disastrous results in some instances where, AI AI doesn't have human understanding and it's allowed and even encouraged people to do hurtful things, including self-harm. So do I see it? So does more research need to be done? Yes, absolutely. It needs to be done continuously. The idea that we'll ever completely understand the working of the human mind is ridiculous to me. I don't think we ever will, at least not on this earth.
if people listening to this have like and they think that hypnosis or like hypnotherapy or as well as psychotherapy, if they see this as a kind of a way for them to maybe try something new, what steps do they need to take to kind of get into a session with someone that is particularly an expert in that field?
Okay, so hypnotherapy and psychotherapy are two radically different things. All right. Even though one hypnotherapy involves a little bit of psychotherapy, but not really. So they're two different things. So psychotherapy is really more directed at what I was talking about before, which is getting, helping to solve problems that are causing you a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety. These are not pleasant things to feel, and we don't want to feel them, and they can be harmful. So psychotherapy is about getting at first, of course, getting at the root causes of why you feel this way, which is often useful. But also, it's learning to think about things differently, like think about events differently. So one of the things we do, especially with people who have fears, I had a lady who she just became afraid to go into her church. She loved her church, she loved the people there, but she was afraid to go into the building. So we did something called systematic desensitization, which really what we did was we just had her visualize um, uh, approaching the church. But we had her, we started with, okay, you're walking down the street on the other side of the street from your church, and you're just looking and you see it over there, but you're nowhere close. You're just walking by. Now, for someone who's really anxious, that still may really scared, that still may be a little anxiety provoking, but they can get through that. But then the next session, you might be walking down the street on the same side as the church. All right, so you're getting a little closer. And the next session, you might be okay, you're going to walk up and walk around the grounds, not go inside the church, but just walk around the grounds outside the church. Again, so it's step by step by step, you get closer and closer. That you look in the window, maybe you open the door, maybe you watch people, maybe you finally walk in, but you stay in the back. It's that kind of thing. Um, that's how therapy would. That's therapy for a particular fear. That's how it would work. There are many other ways too, but that's just one of the ways that kind of thing works. And it's extremely useful. People sometimes just need to gradually get used to thinking of frightening things or even sad things in a different way, in a more constructive way and helpful way.
If people have questions about whether they think that psychotherapy or hypnotherapy would be a good fit for them, and they would like to maybe reach out to you and ask you questions about it, where can they best find you? And also, you had mentioned earlier about you also had a book that you had released.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about, or feel free to also promote the book and explain a little bit about what the book is and
Oh,
where
sure,
people
sure.
can find it.
So where they can find me is I have a website which is 10-10hypnosis.com. That's 10, the number 10 dash number 10 hypnosis.com. So that's my website. You can go there and find out all about hypnosis, certainly about that. And the book that you're referring to, my latest book is my second book actually, is called Dreaming God's Way. And it's, as I say here on the cover, it's a biblically informed guide through the fascinating world of our dreams and their meanings in our lives. And what this book is all about is, it's true. Since biblical times, we've been hearing about dreams and about their importance. And those of you who read the Bible at all will read many, especially in the Old Testament, many references to dreams, and often they are prophetic dreams or what we call precognitive dreams, dreams of things that happen before the actual event happens. So the Bible is filled with those vivid dreams, and some of them are historically significant, and God speaking to humans and even nations through dreams. But dreams are especially important. In the Jewish tradition, the Talmud views dreaming as the means by which God communicates with the soul. And dream interpretation is a valuable spiritual activity. Um, but it's unfortunate that a lot of our Christian psychology and indeed other psychology textbooks and courses don't focus on this, but it really is the as we say, it's the royal road to the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind has often has answers where the conscious mind doesn't, because the unconscious mind will often come up with simple solutions that the conscious mind never even thought of or thought was too impractical. Um, so that's what this book is about. And so in this book we go through the various types of dreams, some of which we've discussed today, with examples of them, and we talk about again, how to determine if a dream is significant for you, and if it's trying to tell you something. And then I offer, there's a chapter on then ways to interpret, and interpreting a dream is a lot like interpreting a story, because a dream is a story that our minds tell us often, and it's a lot like interpreting a story. But since we're the author of the story, uh, we're going to be the best ones to know what that story means. So yeah, once again, the book is called Dreaming God's Way. It is available on Amazon. It is available on Barnes and Noble, and for the budget conscious, it's available on Thrift Books. So it's Dreaming God's Way. Ara Trembly, Trembly, that's me. You just look it up and you'll find me. And yes, I think your listeners will find this, especially if they're interested in dreaming, the unconscious mind, and all those very powerful things. I think you'll find very interesting.
Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on here and sharing this interesting story with me. It's something that I think a lot of people will really relate to, and I'm pretty sure the people
Yes.
that are interested in hypnosis and would like to get hypnotized as well will find huge aspects in it. I actually tried to get hypnotized a few years ago. We had a guy actually come to my high school, and he did like a huge program
Mm.
for all the schools in the county, and I tried to get hypnotized, but then I kind of got sidetracked, as well as I started having a coughing attack in the middle of it. So
I,
it
yeah,
ended up being a fail, but so I didn't really get hypnotized then. But it was actually really fun to see people get hypnotized. I
yeah,
thought, oh, this
yeah,
is more fun. So I appreciate you so much for
yeah.
coming on here and sharing this with me, and
Yes,
sharing
sir.
all that. I will
Yes,
also
sir.
put
And,
off his
and
link. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to point out to you that hypnosis in a group is not nearly as effective as hypnosis one-on-one. Okay, just because of what you talked about. There are people, there are coughing, there are noises going on in the room that they can be distracting. So, although I've done group hypnosis for people to stop smoking, for example, it's not as effective as if you're one-on-one with the hypnotist and the environment is controlled. So that's very important.
Absolutely. I'll put all of his links in the description below as well. I'll put his website, and I'll put links to his books as well, so that it's easy access for everyone to find. If you would
Great.
like to
Thank
follow
you.
me on social media as well, I'm on Instagram and
Yes.
TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast. On Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, it's Noah's Podcast on there. Feel free to follow those social media platforms if you'd like to keep updates on about the podcast on there. As well, you can follow the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. I'm on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It's essentially everywhere, so feel free to subscribe so you get notified when new episodes come out. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to today's episode. Hope you all have a great rest of your day and week. Be safe out there, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Lethal Venom.